I know what that noise is. It's a bad cylinder.
Alright. For Judging Judy. Alright.
Hello and welcome to the Judging Judy podcast, the only podcast in the known universe that turns the tables on America's favorite TV judge. Before we jump into this week's episode, which comes from all the way back on October 15th, 1996, I just want to address my long-running, intermittent, one-sided feud with apparently popular podcast Smartless. After facing criticism for starting their own Smartless mobile cell phone plan, Will Arnett had this to say in reply to criticism. I'm thinking, did you go to work today? Did you collect a check from your boss? Are you selling out? The F are we talking about? Now here's two pieces of advice for you, Will, from a fellow very famous person. Number one, people on the internet will say anything. You can't let it get to you. And number two, trying to argue you're a working man with a job, just like everybody else, doesn't exactly work when you have 133 acting credits, 22 producing credits, and 3 writing credits on IMDb. Anyway, let's check in with my friend, Professor Wikipedia, Doctorate in Relatability, to remind us what was going on in the world when today's episode originally aired way back on October 15th, 1996. A bill known as the Rockerloven was passed in Denmark to allow the police to evict biker gangs from their clubhouses. This is in response, in part, to a rocket attack 10 days prior by the Bandidos Motorcycle Club against the Hells Angels Motorcycles Club that killed 2 and injured 19. It's unclear if the Rockerloven law affected only motorcycle clubs, or if the Mickey Mouse Club and its clubhouse were also affected. The single You Are Meant For Me was released by Jewel, with one reviewer saying, "This simple, charming pop ditty shows why Jewel's star is rising at a meteoric rate, with no sign of slowing down." That star, already in something of a downfall, came crashing down when, in 2025, Jewel sang Over the Rainbow for RFK Jr. and Cheryl Hines at the Make America Healthy Again inauguration ball. A cinnamon bun, supposedly featuring the visage of Mother Teresa, was found at Bongo Java in Nashville, Tennessee. Fame associated with the bun led to the coffee shop cashing in by selling shirts and mugs. The bun was stolen roughly 9 years later. So the next time someone tells you that Nashville is just a soulless, culturalist Disneyland for pretend cowboys and rock-bottom bachelorettes, tell them that they may be right, but that Nashville did once have a cinnamon bun that looked like Mother Teresa, until it was stolen. Thanks, Professor Wikipedia. Now let's check in on the New York Times crossword puzzle for October 15th, 1996, care of xwords.com. The clue for 33 down is sing like Ella, and the answer is scat. Finally, we move on to the box office for that day back in 1996, where, once again, I only have one movie, and yes, it's Independence Day. And look, I don't want to talk about Independence Day again, so I'm going to introduce a new segment within a segment that will work perfectly for movies like this and Saving Private Ryan that just seem to dominate the box office day after day after day. The new segment is called Ambling on eBay for Movie Merchandise. Today we've got a Topps 1996 Independence Day Wide Vision movie card sealed pack deck with 6 cards. Now, Independence Day is spelled incorrectly in the listing for this title, but the cards will only cost you $5, including free shipping within the US. The front of the pack of the cards is encouraging me to look for ID4 hollow foil chase cards, which have been randomly distributed, to which I say, no thanks. The description says that this pack is sealed, and I trust the seller, Roosters Minis/books/cards/comics, with my life. But it doesn't look like it's in the best of shape. I mean, it's your $5, you spend it how you want. All I'm saying is that if you're hoping to pay for your kid's college with a grade 10 mint condition card featuring a madman in Los Angeles encouraging people to repent, you might want to look elsewhere. And that was Ambling on eBay for Movie Merchandise. Let's get to the courtroom for today's teaser.
That's the car that your husband bought. He bought a car that had a dent in it. That he didn't hide that. They didn't put a shroud over the car.
Judy's yelling at 2 older people who, number 1, look very frightened by all her shouting, and number 2, seem to be rethinking signing up for this whole thing.
Well, the total of the phone bill after all was said and done was $2,343.94.
Two conniving, greasy, mulleted teenagers grin back at us as the total is read off and as the audience gasps with enough strength to suck all of the air out of the pretend courtroom. That's enough teasing.
Party's on Lewis versus Lombardo Hutchinson.
Lombardo Hutchinson sounds like an Italian supervillain whose main power is cheating on his taxes. As the parties enter the courtroom, we've got some very old folks, plaintiffs and defendants alike. Between the three of them, I think we're pushing 265 years, maybe, of combined living, or almost old enough to be a US senator. Before we get to the matter at hand, a TV repairman who fell in love with and bought a car from two of his customers only for his wife to later discover a dent, Judy has a very, very important question.
Mr. Lewis, are you cold, sir?
I can assure you that Mr. Lewis was not shivering, his skin hadn't turned blue, nor could we see the air in front of his face as he took his final chilly breaths. He had a hat on. A bucket hat, which to me would not suggest someone was cold, but that someone was either part of the band The New Radicals or stranded on a deserted island.
Oh, did I take the hat off?
Thank you.
While Judy begins monologuing about how she's trying to make sense of the case, Mr. Lewis, or Don to his friends, takes from out of a plastic shopping bag binders and stacks of papers and folders. Very quickly, we've got a plaintiff who looks like a hoarder. I'm not saying he is a hoarder, but the bucket hat, the plastic bag, and the reams of paper aren't helping. On the plus side, if he had been cold, he could have started quite a fire to warm himself by with all these papers.
You're not going to hit me with that, are you?
The man's at least 85 years old, and it's a plastic bag, Judy. I'm not worried about him hitting you with it. I'm worried about him dying, and the will being hidden somewhere in the volumes of his paperwork.
I'm going to explain it to you in a minute.
So he's not saying he's not going to hit her with the bag, but that when he does, it'll come with an explanation. Judy tries to move beyond Don's premeditated plastic bag assault with a little bit of helpful exposition, but Don already has his doubts.
For many years, the defendants have been bringing their TVs in for you to fix.
I don't know about that.
Don's voice has all the qualities of a half-aborted fart. Don, chill out. These are just the facts. We haven't even gotten to the actual case yet.
One thing at a time.
Judy gets Don to agree that the defendants, Carolyn and Dorothy, had at the very least been to his TV repair shop, and that on one particular trip, Carolyn brought 3 television sets in for repair, and on that occasion, Don noticed Carolyn's station wagon. Don completely needlessly adds this clarification, and in the process confirms my earlier suspicion about his flatulent voice.
We took the TVs out of the wagon into the shop.
Now me, I would rather never watch a TV or a TV-like device than deal with Don so that he could fix my TV, even if it meant not getting to watch The View. That's how quickly I've turned against Don. Judy's picking up her pace. Now, that's presumably to head Don off before he can sabotage her again with another interruption.
Just you wait.
Judy says that Don took a fancy to Carolyn's car, but that Carolyn wasn't sure she wanted to sell it. Not only wasn't the car hers, it was her mother Dorothy's, but it also had some mechanical problems.
And she said it had a dent in the car.
Now, Carolyn sounds like a terrible saleswoman, which makes sense because she wasn't trying to sell her car. She was trying to get her TV fixed.
Yeah, but I never saw it.
But she told you that it had a dent in it, is all I'm
Okay,
saying.
all right.
If Carolyn is a bad saleswoman, Don is a bad customer.
Okay, then it gets worse.
2 days later, Don had to correct Judy when she said one day, Carolyn came back and said her mom was willing to sell the dented station wagon if Don would pay off the remaining $4,200 left on the car loan.
Took you for a test drive in the car?
No.
Both Carolyn and her mother shoot Don looks when the word no oozes out of his mouth. Don annoyingly hems and haws until Judy shoots him down.
Well, you went for a ride in the car.
Well,
You say you went for a ride in the car.
Down the
You
block.
wouldn't lie to me, Mr. Lewis.
Judy reminds him that in his own complaint, he said he went for a ride in the car, even if it was a short one. This is getting awfully laborious, but when Judy says that Don liked the car and gave them $4,200 for it, he objects again.
Well, did you give her the $4,200?
yeah, but that was the mother.
Eventually, we land on the fact that he paid Carolyn, not Dorothy. But then when Judy says that they delivered the car to him, Don objects again with the same gluteal groan we've heard from him a dozen times so far. After variously claiming he never had the car given to him and never took the car home, Don says he had the car in his possession the next day. You know, it's right around Christmas time, and I know a lot of people know the movie It's a Wonderful Life. Well, I just want to say I wish Don had never been born.
Oh, why don't you stop annoying me?
Don clarifies that he did not take the car home, but to the shop, where, I can only assume, a mechanic promptly hanged himself.
When did your wife see the car?
I guess the next day.
Don says that his wife was very unhappy when she saw the car, although, at least at first blush, we don't know if it was if she was unhappy because of the car or because being with Don would make anyone very, very unhappy. I mean, the Pillsbury Doughboy, the Charmin toilet paper bears. I guess when it comes to references for very happy things, all I have are corporate mascots, and all of them, without exception, would be unhappy being with Don.
So she gave you a hard time?
Yes and no, yes.
Don never met a question he didn't want to not answer.
Wait. Is that a triple negative?
Well, I got a yes, I got a no, I got a yes. Was it yes or no?
We're dealing with a Schrodinger's Don here, Judy. Schrodonger. It's yes and no simultaneously until you open the box and inevitably it explodes in your face. Don eventually concedes that she did, in fact, give him a hard time and a real hard time, though the way Judy says, did she give you a real hard time, is getting uncomfortably close to flirting, and for the sake of my own future libido, I need to not think about these two people flirting.
It's unnatural.
Judy says that it was at this point that Don wanted out of his contract with these two. But the word contract throws Don for a conniption fit. Judy, loudly and with many a wave of her hands, clarifies that it was an oral contract, but a contract all the same. Deciding perhaps that if she continues talking to Don, one or both of them might die, and that there might be a lot of blood to clean up, and that she doesn't want to be remembered as the TV judge who mangled an octogenarian TV repairman, Judy moves to questioning Carolyn about what happened with Don. Carolyn starts by establishing just how long she's been dealing with this lunatic.
And by the way, I have been a customer of his since 1975.
1975. That means over 25 years she's been dealing with this curmudgeonly brick of expired cottage cheese. Again, I'd have given up watching TV. So what? You would have missed some Super Bowls. You'd have missed the OJ chase. You'd have missed the Oliver North hearings, where a member of the National Security Council admitted to selling arms to Iran to fund illegal wars in Central America, amongst other things. You'd have missed all of these important TV moments, but Carolyn, you would have kept your sanity.
I mean, isn't that worth all the other experiences combined?
Carolyn says that she tried to urge Don against purchasing the car, but that he insisted. She goes on to say that he was so insistent about buying the car that he called where she worked twice to ask after the car, a point that Don denies.
The day he gave me the $4,200, I said, please, would you please take this car home, let your wife, you know what he said? I don't need my wife's approval for anything. It's my money, I can buy what I want.
Don naturally declares that this too is a lie, though at this juncture that is as unsurprising as it is uninteresting. According to Carolyn, things only nosedived from there.
So when I asked him about that, he said to me on the telephone, so now you're going to rub it in my nose in it? I said, I'm not rubbing your nose in it.
Touch your nose.
Carolyn clearly was prepared for Don's nonsense, if you will, because she recorded the conversation with him.
I said, Mr. Lewis, I'm taping this right now on my telephone machine.
Don, meanwhile, is peering around the pretend courtroom like a dog that knows it's done something wrong but is trying to feign innocence. Unfortunately, Carolyn did not bring the recording with her since she didn't know if what she had done was legal. I don't know what state Carolyn and Don lived in, and I'm no expert on wiretapping laws to begin with. But I think she was well within her rights because she told Don she was recording and because Don's a jerk. Judy invites Don's wife to stand beside him instead of sitting as one of his witnesses, though I imagine it must have been a kind of joyous respite, even being a few feet away from him for those few brief moments.
What'd you say to your husband when he came back with the car?
This is terrible. This lady is really taking you.
Taking him for a ride? Don's wife, as of yet unnamed, says that the whole fender was broken and smashed in and that she noticed it right off the bat. Because, yeah, that sounds like the kind of thing that would be hard to miss. If someone told me my carburetor was under-torqued, I wouldn't know where to look. I wouldn't know if that was a real thing. But a fender, 4, maybe 3.5 times out of 10, I can pretty accurately guess where a fender might be.
He bought a car that had a dent in it. That he didn't hide that. They didn't put a shroud over the car.
Is that what happened with Jesus? Is that why they had a shroud? Did he have a dent in him? Don's wife, and I really need a name for her because I feel like I'm condemning her to a kind of guilt by association with this flaccid monster, says that there's more to it than the obvious dent, and that Don has proof.
You agree with me that this dent was visible when you saw it?
No, it was. He didn't see it.
Judy senses that Don and the woman who's standing next to him, and is also betrothed to him, are kind of ever so not really being honest with her anymore.
You have to let me explain it to you.
This is what I hear whenever someone tries to explain to me how the Grateful Dead is the greatest band ever. And while I wish I could ignore Don in the same way that I ignored them, Judy allows Don to speak, so I suppose I ought to listen.
But let it be known that I'm not happy about it.
Don alleges that Carolyn only showed him the driver's side, whereas the dent was on the passenger side. Carolyn tries to explain that the dent was on the driver's side, but is shushed down by the woman formerly known as Don's wife. In the process, Don's significant other also alleges that Carolyn has a big house. I would have included the clip were it not for the poor audio, but, I mean, everybody knows what they say about people with big houses. They lie about dents.
Of course they do.
Don actually has to nudge his wife to get her to shut up, though we still do get this outburst.
I heard you on the phone. I was 20 miles away from you. And you got
Quiet.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Lewis,
Big mouth.
do you want to tell?
I'm not first, yes.
Now sit down, Mr. Lewis.
Again, the audio was terrible there, but via the closed caption, it was Mrs. Lewis saying that, quote, Carolyn had a big mouth that got her sent back to her seat.
Excuse me.
We return now to our regularly scheduled explanation of what happened by famed storyteller Don Lewis.
I said, I know what that noise is. It's a bad cylinder.
Okay, so that's what you thought it was.
I know it was. Because I have experienced the same thing many times before.
You still bought the car. You bought it. Look, I've eaten many bananas. If I identified one banana as actually being a hot dog, and I often found hot dogs disguised as bananas, but I still bought the banana that was actually a hot dog, it would be my fault for buying the ersatz banana, the disguised hot dog. It would be on me.
Oh, yeah. No, that makes sense.
Judy states much the same, although with markedly fewer references to bananas. He saw the car 3 times at least. He drove the car around. He heard the messed up cylinder. And he still bought the car. He bought the car.
I got that because I took it back to them. I told them I wanted my money back. I don't want this junk.
According to Don, Carolyn said she didn't owe him anything and that the car was his problem. Even though he was quoting someone else, that's probably the most accurate thing Don said all episode. Preparing to deliver her verdict, I hope, Judy says she's not unsympathetic to how Don feels.
But I have to explain to you what the law is.
I know what the law is.
I was half ready to say something mean about Don here, but I suppose that's true. He does know what the law is. He knows the law is not on his side. If the law were on his side, he'd have gone to court and won. The reason he's on Judge Judy is because the only chance for him to win anything, despite the law, was to convince Judy he's worthy of it. Unfortunately for Don, he's worthy of nothing. Nothing. Not $4,200 and nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing!
Nothing. Judy needlessly rehashes the nature of oral contracts and all of Don's foibles throughout the purchase of the car as he rummages through his mounds of evidence.
Then you opened up the hood of the car, looked inside, saw that there was no oil perhaps in the car because you're showing me a dipstick.
Since he had every chance before he bought the car to identify all the things wrong with it, Dipstick Don did not buy a lemon, and at long last, Judy dismisses his case. Jumping right to our next squabble, I'm going to clip in Jerry Bishop's explanation of this very 90s case.
This lady says she loaned a phone card to her young friends to make a few calls. By the time they hung up, there was a bill for over $2,000.
Phone cards. We've got a case about lending someone phone cards. There was something illicit about phone cards. It was like you were cheating the system if you had one. And those who did have them, they were immediately under suspicion. What did they need to be making all these long-distance phone calls for anyway? What? They couldn't find a local drug dealer? One in the same area code?
Don't you think I tried?
Now, this is not a time I'm exactly nostalgic for. I mean, save for all the Slim Jims I was eating, 1996 was a pretty grim time for me. Is there a darker shade of nostalgia? Something for when you feel a fondness for a time, purely because it seems so different from today, but you also have absolutely no desire to return to that time? If there isn't a word for that, I propose a new word. Nostalgia. It's spelled the same way as nostalgia, but pronounced ever so slightly differently.
I understand.
Our plaintiff, who Jerry Bishop quite obtusely called this lady, looks to be at least in her 50s. While I'm guessing the two mulleted, intentionally grossly oversized clothes-wearing defendants are maybe 15, they definitely get carded if they tried to buy tickets for 1996 R-rated movie Swingers, and might even get carded trying to get into 1996 PG-13 movie A Very Brady Sequel. Judy starts things off with her own exceptionally 90s sounding victim blaming.
It always amazes me, why does one person give teenage girls a credit card, a telephone credit card, and then they're amazed when a teenage girl abuses that credit card?
Teenage girls, am I right? Buying clothes and getting their hair done and running up huge phone bills on someone else's credit card or telephone credit card. Why can't they be like teenage boys and just shoot up their schools? After Judy describes her own travails with our credit card and telephone abusing teenager, we learn that our hair gel obsessed defendants are named Jennifer and Amanda and are 17 and 18 years old. Wow. Well, hey, they look good for their ages, except that they look like extras in a Larry the Cable Guy movie. Dirty, greasy, slimy, but young looking extras. Jean, our plaintiff, has a simple explanation for why she gave these two Joe Dirt lookalikes the phone card, which Judy continues to refer to as a credit card in a way that suggests she is far too rich to have ever used a calling card.
I felt sorry for them.
I feel sorry for them too, but a gift card for Supercuts seems like a more appropriate solution to their particular set of problems.
Or a chainsaw.
Jean explains that Amanda was visiting Los Angeles but had to return to Illinois, which made Jennifer depressed. She lent them the phone card so that they could stay in touch. I feel like we need to back up just a little bit to get an explanation as to how Jean met these two. I mean, unless she sort of just scouted around LAX looking for people who look like they might be depressed after their similarly coiffed, similarly attired friends flew back home.
So I authorized them to use my card for a couple of hours.
Amanda was living with her mother at the time, leading Judy to ask why she didn't ask her mother to help her stay in touch with Jennifer. Note that I may be confusing Jennifer and Amanda, but that it's very difficult for me to tell them apart, and that I mean no harm in confusing them, and that ultimately it doesn't matter.
Easy for you to say.
Jean explains that Jennifer had already gotten into trouble with her mom back in Illinois for making calls to Amanda, and that Jennifer's mom had put a lock on their telephone. Judy says that this means that Jean knew that these two were in the habit of abusing their phone privileges, and that's all well and good, but I just want to say, look, I don't know who listens to this podcast. If you're a millennial, a Gen X, Gen Z, Imogen Heap, or Imitation Milk, it doesn't matter who you are or when you were born, just bask in the knowledge that back in 1996, you had to probably go to the Bell Atlantic office to probably pay an extra fee to block your daughter from placing a long-distance phone call.
Remember the good old days.
Did you ever hear the expression assumption of risk?
Well, yeah, I've heard of it, but I never really got that into REM, and so I only know their more popular songs, like the one about the world ending. But hey, I'll definitely listen to this risk assumption one. Jean says that she has heard of it, but that she doesn't know what it means. I bet I know a certain judge who wants to prove just how smart she is by describing exactly what it means. But I won't give her that satisfaction. Because it's not a very opaque phrase, and I'm sure you can figure it out.
What if I can't?
Long story short, Judy's saying that Jean's stupid, and it's her fault for giving them access to the card, even though she knew they'd gone wild with long-distance calls in the past.
Well, the total of the phone bill after all was said and done was $2,343.94.
Now that sounds like a lot of money. It was a lot of money. It still is a lot of money. But what does it mean exactly? According to this LA Times article from 1996, quote, MCI, for example, has a flat rate calling plan that charges 15 cents per minute, no matter where or when you call. But it also imposes a 79-cent surcharge when you use a calling card. So a 1-minute call costs 94 cents, which means that it's very likely that Jennifer and Amanda made roughly 2,493 1-minute calls to one another using Jean's calling card. Despicable. But think of how much worse it could have been if they had made 2-minute long calls.
I don't want to think about it.
We learned that all of these calls happened over the course of 2 months, which means they were making about 42 1-minute calls a day. It does beg the question, though, why didn't Jean stop it after 1 month? She must have gotten a bill halfway through, right? Judy asks the same question, which, come on, Judy, come up with your own angle. Freaking copycat.
Did you go, yeah? Where did all this come from?
Jean says that when she got the first bill, she contacted Jennifer to tell her how high it was and changed her PIN, an action she took on the advice of her phone company.
They called me to change the number since there was 74 calls made in one day.
74! That means they weren't making 1-minute phone calls. They were making 22-second phone calls. That changes all the math. Turns out Jean is asking for more money beyond the phone bill, an additional $500 she lent to Amanda to pay off her phone bill and for airfare to Los Angeles. Are we really not going to find out how Jean knew these people? Maybe it's not entirely germane to this case, but it might help explain why she thought she could trust them, or it might show that she's just a crazy person. Either way, I want to know.
We all do.
Jean's only explanation for her actions is again that she felt sorry for them. I can't imagine Jean fared well when the Nigerian princes started emailing her.
Well, because there was an agreement, verbal though it was, between us.
However, when Jean made the agreement with Amanda, Amanda was a minor. Jean tries to argue that she also made the agreement with Jennifer, but Jennifer was only 17 at the time.
That doesn't make one major. Two minors don't make one major.
Feeling satisfied that she's found any number of ways to call Jean stupid, Judy turns her attention to the two chronic callers. She starts by asking if they feel like they abused the calling card.
No, because she gave us the calling card.
Just a minute.
This limp, lifeless, and lazy response causes Judy to pause Jennifer to remind her that she's in a courtroom, which, of course, is not really strictly true. Judy asks again if Jennifer felt like she was abusing the phone card, given the $2,300 bill.
She didn't set a limit for us, Your Honor. She just gave us the calling card number.
Jennifer agrees that they had an agreement to pay her back, though the two were thinking in the territory of $50 a month, whereas Jean wanted $200 to $300 a month.
We tried to compromise with her, but she just wanted more than we could afford.
Not $50 each, but $50 collectively, which means these little con artists were saying all they could afford was $6 each a week. I can't blame Jean for wanting a little more than $6 a week each. They might have had to dig into their David Byrne-sized clothing budget. It might have meant one fewer extra large shirt each month, but I think they can manage more than $6 a week. Amanda's out of school, not working. Jennifer is still in school but doesn't have a job. Judy says that they have a debt to pay and better get busy, as if making 74 calls a day isn't taking up all their time.
I don't think that's how it works.
Even though she appears to have kind of reached a conclusion against Amanda and Jennifer, Judy pauses to remind Jean that she made a big mistake. It had been a little while since Jean felt bad, so I think it was good to kind of, let her marinate in the stupidity of her error, like letting a crying child sit in its soiled diaper. Judy says that she could just dismiss Jean's claim since she can't make a valid contract with teenagers, but that wouldn't be teaching the girls a lesson, which is kind of an interesting point. Because, look, we know that even if Judy rules in favor of Jean, Jennifer and Amanda aren't paying. The producers are paying. So the teenagers, they won't be learning their lesson. They knowingly made $2,300 in phone calls and got to go on TV to boot. And Jean won't be learning a lesson because she still get her money even though she assumed the risk, as Judy would put it.
They're going to have to work, and I think that the two of you can work, and each one of you make $50 a month. That may mean that you can't buy yourselves clothes, or it may mean that you can't use the telephone for a while, or...
We've got no indication that anything will stop these two from using the phone. Make them work. Take away their men's big and tall shirts. Cut their hair. But nothing will come between them and their very, very brief, very frequent interstate calls. Judy rules that each of them have to pay $50 a month until the debt is paid in full, which of course isn't really how it worked. But kind of like how we all pretend that parents love all their children equally, we'll go along with it all the same because confronting the truth is much more difficult and painful. With all that over with, we can finally get to the moment you've all been waiting for, the time when I get to judge Judy. As you may well know, I work off a completely arbitrary system, but it all comes down to this. Did Judy deliver justice? Justice for the people in her court, the people at home, and the people listening now to this podcast almost 3 decades later. If she did, she's innocent. If not, she's guilty. Today's a slam dunk for Judy. She did her job. Even with an absolute maniac in case 1, Judy maintained her composure. She acted like an adult and she acted like a judge, which, despite her title and the title of her TV show, isn't always the case. Given how endlessly frustrating and aggravating Dawn was, I wouldn't have been surprised and maybe wouldn't have punished Judy for causing a scene of her own, but she didn't. She conducted herself in a manner respecting her entirely fake courtroom. I think there were some minor missteps. I think she was a little harsh on Carolyn, not letting her have her say. I think she could have done more to quiet Dawn's wife, whose behavior indicated that she and her husband were a perfect match for each other. And then in case number 2, I really wish we got some more detail on how Jean ever met Jennifer and Amanda, some context that would have made their whole arrangement make more sense. But that's nitpicking, and I'm not here to pick nits. I'm here to judge Judy, and today, she's innocent. That noise means, of course, It's hangman time. But this isn't the hangman you played as a kid when you really should have been studying for your eye exam. No, this is hangman with stakes. This week, I'm putting waiting until it's your turn to disembark on the plane up on the gallows. If I win, people will have to continue, sensibly, to wait until the rows ahead of them have gathered their carry-ons and stood in the aisle before they try to get up. For some of you, this may be a new concept, but it's actually been the norm all along and will continue to be expected normal human practice if I win. However, if I lose, it's anarchy, and anyone can do anything in any order they want to. Even if you're in row 304, you can nudge and shoulder your way to the front of the plane, maybe even before it's done taxiing. I'm using hangmanwords.com, and this week I'm returning to their GRE words list. Hangmanwords.com gives me 6 incorrect guesses, 6 letters that can be wrong before I lose the game. And yes, this would be better visually. So it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe a 9-letter word. Remember, we're on our GRE words list. I'm going to start with R. There is no R, so I have a head on my hangman and 5 more incorrect guesses. Let's try M, as in maybe M is in the word. M is not in the word, so my hangman has a torso and I have 5 more incorrect guesses. Let's start with the first letter of the alphabet, A. I said start with. I'm not starting there. What an idiot. Look at me. I'm like the guy in the back of the plane who wants to go up ahead. There is no A, so I now have a head, a torso, and a left leg, and 3 more incorrect guesses. Let's try N. There is an N. The penultimate letter is N, so blank, 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 N, blank. Thinking maybe NT at the end. Let's try T. There is no T, so I only have 2 more incorrect guesses. There has to be an E here, right? There is an E, not too much of a help, but the third letter is E. Blank, blank, E, blank, 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 and blank. Let's try I. There is an I, blank, blank, E, blank, 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 I, N, blank. What about G? All right, we got 2 G's. Blank, blank, E, blank, G, blank, I-N-G. Let's try S. There is no S, so I'm down to 1 more incorrect guess. What about P, as in, please let there be a P in this word? Nope, I was wrong. The word was fledgling, and you know, I'm sorry to everyone on the plane, because it doesn't matter if you have a connecting flight, doesn't matter if the person behind you is just a big Blue Lives Matter kind of t-shirt wearing guy who wants to get past you. There are no rules anymore. Anyone can do whatever they want when leaving the plane. All hope is lost. With our remaining few moments, let's hear an out-of-context quote from Judge Judy. I watched Oprah. I watched Meryl Streep. I watched Michelle Obama. I watched Steve Jobs. That's it. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, like, fornicate, and share. But whatever you do, don't rack up a $2,300 phone bill.